Okay, today we're going to talk about lettering your comic. Okay, um, now we're going to be doing this digitally. The industry standard these days is to letter comics digitally, and that's simply out of convenience. Okay, so there are a few old holdouts that still like to do it by hand, but as someone who, well, when I got my start, it was all hand lettering. This is back in the 80s. And boy, lettering was the most odious task. So I have fully embraced digital digital lettering. Okay. Now we're going to be using Illustrator primarily for this. However, we're going to be starting out in Photoshop. Now that's because before you start lettering your page, you have to make sure it's the right size. As you can see here, this is a template which comes from a comic book printing company. It's provided for free at their website, so feel free to download it. This is your standard size for a comic book page. Okay, it's 7 inches wide by 10.5 inches. Your live area is 6.25 by 9.75. The trim area and all that, so on and so forth. Okay, but you get your lines right here, so it makes it pretty easy for you. It's all color coded. So let's go ahead and grab a page here. We've got this is one of my pages from a short story that I did. So we're going to we've already selected it. You just do a select all, okay, but we're going to do a copy merged, okay, and that is going to copy the entire thing, all layers, and we're going to paste it here. Okay, now you'll see that it's way larger. Yeah, the original is 11 by 17. This is like I said, 7 by 10 and a half. Now the reason that we're sizing this down and not lettering the larger page is because if you did that, your letter size would be, you wouldn't be able to control exactly what your letter size is. It makes it too unwieldy. So you need to size it down first and then go with about an 8-point font. That's standard for comics. Some go a little bit bigger, some go a little bit smaller, but usually 8-point. Now, as you can see, I've taken the opacity down on this, and that's so I can size it down and center it. I could bring in guidelines, to make it easier, but I find it's just as simple just to take the opacity down and then do a free transform. You want to constrain your proportions, which in Photoshop means don't hold down your shift key. For an Illustrator, you hold down the shift key. They just changed that, and it's caused some bit of confusion with some of my students. And there we go. That's about the right size, give or take a little bit more. Just a little touch more there. Want to make sure that's well within the margins, even if there's a little bit of extra on the top and the bottom. Okay, there we go. That's size, that's centered. Kind of looking at the top and the bottom margins there, and also looking at the arrows in the middle, making sure that it looks just about right. Let's go to just pop it down just a touch more. There, that looks a little more centered. Now I'll take the opacity back up. Okay, and Control 0. You have to excuse me, my computer is having some issues with Adobe Photoshop these days. I think it has something to do with the 2022 version that got downloaded. So, okay, our page is sized down and ready to go. So now we're going to pop over to Adobe Illustrator. See, I've already got it set up and opened up in Illustrator. Now, before we get going here, I just want to point out that I am using a typography workspace. Okay, so sorry, I had to pause there. had a cough. So yeah, we're using a typography workspace. That's what I find works best for when I'm doing lettering, because that opens up, among other things, my character palette, and we're going to need that for what we want to do. Okay. Now, also, now I open this thing up and locked it, but I'm going to undo the lock a little bit. Now, the reason for that is because I want to change the opacity of this down a little bit. Okay. Now, you might be asking why I'm taking the opacity down. This is making the whole thing kind of gray. Well, that's because I'm going to be doing lettering that's going to be black lettering against uh, some very black areas. There's a lot of dark in this page. So I'm going to take the opacity down to, maybe like 30% so I can see what I'm doing. I can always change it back later. Now I'm going to go ahead and lock that back up again. That's so I don't select it by mistake and start moving things around that I don't want to. Now I'm zooming in here so I can kind of see what I'm doing. All right, now also open on this computer is my script. Okay, you can see it right here. This is page 2, corresponding with page 2. And we've got our text here. Flashback to earlier that day. It's the throne room of King Urf of Flafuna. That was a real place, by the way. Where we see the king, Arnza, Daxios, and some others. A messenger comes bursting into the room. And there we got the dialogue starting. Master, your daughter's been taken by Zexu. He demands tribute. Okay. Now, what I do is I will take these things one bit at a time. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to copy it rather than trying to retype it and stuff. You might as well just copy it and paste it right into your document. That way you know it's correct. You know it's exactly what the script asked for. Okay, so let's click on our type tool. Now I'm going to be using Anime Ace, which is one of the, in my opinion, one of the best dialogue fonts out there. It comes from blambot.com, which is run by Nate Picos. He is the guy for comic book lettering. If you have any questions at all about comic book lettering, man, look at his site. He's got it all. So we've got that all set. Anime Ace, regular 8-point. Let's go ahead and click. We get our usual lorem ipsum. And we're going to hit V, and there we go. Now, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to play around with this a little bit to make it fit. We've got our space right here, but we need to figure out how to break this up so it'll work best. So here we've got it, it's align centered. That's not too bad, but it's a little close here. When we try to put the word balloons in, it's going to be a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this up a little bit further. Okay, so I'm going to take this line of copy here, and I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to delete it. Okay, so I've got this line of text here, and we'll add the other line of text here. And then we're going to change it a little bit. Because remember, your word balloons are going to be based on sort of ovals. All right, so I'm going to put it like that. Let's see if that works. He demands tribute. That works in the space. I'm not real wild about the smaller he above demands, but there's not a whole lot you can do about it. One thing we might be able to do is move this over slightly. We don't want to cover up too much of the artwork. There, that should work. Okay. Now, before I do anything else, before I start adding the balloons or anything like that, what I'm going to do is grab the next line, which is the king saying something. We're going to copy that, go back here, and we're going to do as we feared. Okay, so this line, let's try it like that. Not wild about that. again, because of the sort of roundness that we're going to that the shape of the balloon is going to have. Yeah, this is a tough one. This might work better as 2 lines, so let's do it like this. Yeah, that's pretty much going to have to be it. And notice that we're making this move throughout the page. All right, now it's time to add some word balloons. Now, one thing we might want to do before we do anything else is put this up on different layers. Didn't think to do that. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We got our artwork image layer here. Well, I'm going to hit this little plus sign down here, layer 2. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little spinning wheel there. I'm going to copy this. Okay, pop it off there. Then go on to layer 2 and do a paste in place. Okay, now it's on a separate layer. You can do that in Adobe Illustrator, it's fine. It's still an editable layer and all that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go back to my artwork image and layer and add a new layer. I'm going to have that be, let's make that word balloons, and we'll call this layer dialogue. Really should have done this before I started lettering, but you know the nice thing about these programs is you can kind of finagle around stuff. It's not an issue. All right, so let's go to the word balloons layer and start making some word balloons. All right, now we're going to be using our ellipse tool primarily for this. Okay, so we've got our ellipse tool. Right now it's set on the default, which is a black fill and no stroke. I'm going to switch that to a white fill and a 1-point stroke. And make a little circle there. Now, the 1-point stroke might be a little bit big. It might be a little bit thick for this. So I'm going to take this down a notch to 75. Okay, so there's our first word balloon there. Okay, now I'm going to have to adjust the size a little bit to make sure the copy can be centered nicely in it. Okay, now I don't want to go too wide with it. You want to have plenty of space. I'm actually thinking what I might do is center this block of copy here, and then we'll make another ellipse right here and have that kind of center around the word master, referring to the king. Actually, this might entail separating these two. I'm not sure, because I really would like to have a little bit more space between the word master and your daughter's been taken by Zixu. I could do that by adjusting the space, but I still might be able to make it work with the word balloons. I just have to be careful that I'm not having the edges of the balloon get too close to anything else. Let's see if this will work just like that. Yeah, that kind of works, but you know, I'm not sure if it takes the emphasis off master. I think maybe what we can do, we can put the emphasis back on by taking the word master, since he's yelling anyway, and let's make that bold. There, that looks a little bit better. Okay. Now this other balloon that I already made, we can still use that. We can just put this over here and have the use it for the king. Okay. Now, one thing I'm thinking too, though, is okay, since he is yelling, let's go ahead and make this italic. This too. So even though it's not bold, it still pretty much works. As you know, it looks like the guy's excited. You know, he's like panicking. There we go. There's a lot of adjusting that goes on and things like this. Now, we need another word balloon here. So let's make sure we've got that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these word balloons and we're going to blend them together. All right. So it looks like a multi-part word balloon. Something like that. Okay. Let's make sure we have this more or less centered here. Now, one thing you can do if you want to make sure is you can grab both these things and literally center it like that. But the only thing that I find is that sometimes when it's mathematically centered, it doesn't look right. See how it looks like there's more space up here at the top than the bottom? There really isn't, but because this word tribute is longer than he, it looks off. Okay, so you don't always want to do that. Actually, you know, sometimes you just want to, you know, eyeball it. Okay, so we've got these placed, we know where we want them. I'm going to grab both of these, all right, and make sure I'm not grabbing the text. And I'm going to go over here to my shape builder tool, and that is going to make these into one balloon. Okay, now I'm also going to use the same tool to create the tail of the balloon that goes to the different characters' mouths. Now, I like to have the tails kind of go, you want to have them go as close to the mouth as possible. Okay, and this is going to require zooming in a little bit more. So, zoomed in a little bit here, we got to have one going to the servant and one going to the king. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use our polygon tool and we're going to click once. And that's going to give us a dialog box. And what we want to do, though, is we want to take this from 6 sides down to 3, make a triangle. And there it'll give us a standard issue size. I'm going to take my direct select tool here. And my direct select tool allows me to grab the anchor points and put them where I want, changing the shape. So what I'm doing is I'm actually putting this top part of the tail into the center of the primary balloon. You want to have it look like it's coming out of the center of the balloon. Now, what I'm going to do, though, I don't like these straight lines, so I'm going to click on one edge here. I'm going to make that from a straight to a rounded. Do the same thing there. And then take the handlebars and look at that. Look at that nice sharp edge it's got there. Perfect. So now we can take this, our tail, and the rest of our balloon, and again use our shape builder tool to make that into one balloon that goes right to the guy's mouth just like we want. Okay, now let's do the same for the king here. So let's click on our polygon tool. It should still be set on 3. Let's double check. Yep, there we are. You know, you can also take your pen tool if you want and make a shape, a custom shape. Just moving that kind of into place. I'm going to grab the corner here, move that. Now this one is going to be a bit longer, and I'm not going to be able to make it go directly at his mouth, okay? Because I don't want it to be too huge and have it be like something separating Dex from the rest of the picture. This is a character Dexios, this is Arnza. Anyway, but let's go ahead and make that into a curve. Make the other one into a curve, and we're going to adjust the bend here because you never want your boxes to cover up any important artwork like a character. I think in this case what we can do is we can make this a little narrower. There we go. Let's do the same thing here. And then bow it a little bit, just a touch. There we go. A little bit more here. Right there. That ought to do it. Okay. And then, well, that's still selected. We'll grab the other part and there. Okay. There is our first little bit of lettering done. Let's go ahead and we're only at 20 minutes, so let's go ahead and pull the next little bit. Let's see, and this is the main character, Arnza, talking to the king. So let's go ahead and grab just that. We'll copy that. And make sure we're on the correct layer here. We don't want to accidentally put it on the word balloon one. We'll hit our dialogue. It's still set on italic. We don't want that. So we'll put it on regular, and then again we'll have to adjust what we've got here. It can't be Zixit, my lord. He's dead. Don't be stupid. Now, let's take a quick look back at our script. Stupid me. Okay, that's what the king says. So where's that going to go? Let's sort of like playing a little game. So I think let's try this. Can't be Zixu, my lord. He's dead. Now that is a little too square. I don't want to fill up this thing with a weird shape. Okay, so I think what I need to do is break this into a couple of parts. That almost works, but we have a word balloon that's in. It's going to have to be in two parts again, I think. So let's grab this part, copy it, delete it. Yeah, that works pretty good with kind of an oval. And then what we'll do is we'll take this and don't be stupid. Put this right about here. Again, it's kind of a thing where we got to kind of eyeball it. We don't want to have it be completely aligned. We want to have this here in this little off center as it's coming down toward Arnza. And then there should be room enough in this space for the king's dialogue. Yeah, maybe that can be centered. I don't know. I don't want to get in the way of the king's head. So let's go ahead and grab that other bit of dialogue. Copy that. And in this case, I think what we're going to have to do is Control B. In this case, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to stack this. But in this case, we're also going to maybe make this just a little bit bigger, and let's go with this one bold there. He's not used to being called stupid, so that's something you don't want to do. All right, now let's go ahead and start adding those balloons. Before that, though, let's do something really quick. Let's add some emphasis here. So let's make that bold and this. With comics, you want to kind of have emphasis on some words. Okay, so in this case, we're putting the emphasis on the word dead, stupid, and then of course the king. A little more emphasis on me than stupid. Okay, so stupid, me, that sort of thing. All right, let's start making our word balloons. Let's go ahead and grab our ellipse tool again. And in this case, whoa, look at that. It went back to the default. Let's switch that. There we go. Went back to the default, and it's back at 1 point again. Let's switch that and make that a little narrower too. Let's make sure that is centered about right. We want to make sure we don't have a tangent here as well. We may want to double check our lines here. Let's see. Master is as we feared. Actually, you know what? Let's let's align these just a little bit, just so it's a little more standard. Okay. So there. Now we've got these sort of aligned here. Notice the top lines are aligned so it reads better. Draw this down just a touch more. Okay. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm not going to have it be part of the other balloon like over here. I'm going to actually have it be a separate one, but one that's actually connected. So, a little trick here. I'm going to click on this before I start creating my next word balloon. The reason why is when I had clicked on my lettering, it automatically wants to make the stroke and fill go to the default. If you click on it right beforehand, it will remember the previous click. So I think what we can do is we can probably have a word balloon that either is joined by a little thing here, a little extension, and then a tail, or we could just have it be the same tail, just really long. Let's try that. So let's grab our polygon tool again. It's still set at a triangle. There we go. And I am going to set it here and then grab this anchor point, pop it up here along with this one. I'm going to point this more toward his mouth and then center that a little bit more. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to play around with those handlebars again. So we're going to make those curved, make this curve around. So it looks like it's coming more out of his mouth. Yeah, I don't know if that works or not. I think we might need to just join these up like we did the other one. So I guess we are going to have to move this up a little bit. So let's go ahead and move that up just a touch. And then move this up just a touch. And then let's join these together. Like so. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. Yeah, I didn't like that the polygon being off center like that in between them. So this gives us a little bit more control. So let's go ahead and click on our corner here. In this case, if we're just doing it like this, oh, didn't mean to move that. There, come on. And then there we go. Notice how when you adjust the handlebars, it gets a nice sharp point. If you go too far, it might dull the point. You don't want to do that. You want to have it pointing as much to the mouth as possible. All right, now let's go ahead and grab both of these, just holding down the Shift key, and use our Shape Builder tool again to make that into one. All right, and now let's go over here and take care of this. Yeah, originally I had made these a larger size, but I'm not sure if that's a good idea. So let's go ahead and, whoops, not letting me select it. Let's go ahead and take the size back down to the normal size, which is 8 point. Okay, notice that I've got some word balloon going into the gutter. Okay, now we're gonna have to take care of that. That's gonna have to change, but we'll do that in just a second. All right, so let's go ahead and set this up. Let's grab our ellipse tool, make sure we're on our word balloon. Oh, look at that! And see, like I said, because I had just clicked on the letters to move them, it defaulted back. So let's real quick just click on this, and then click on our ellipse tool, and there we go. That's just kind of an annoying thing that it does. It just defaults back. Now in this case, we've got to move these things around a little bit to make them really fit right. Okay. Now we don't really want to create a tangent here. Okay. Tangents are when things in design either touch or nearly touch. Okay. So yeah, this creates a problem. Those are touching. So I think what we're going to have to do, I think we're going to have to do this in multiple parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, like that. And then let's copy it and let's paste it. So we got another version of it right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller. Now, as you can see, it looks like it's almost touching there, and it is over here, but that'll be fine once we join them together. Move this over just a touch, move this over a touch. Again, you don't want tangents, and I've got a tangent right here with the edge of the thing. So this is going to, if it seems like I'm being really particular about how I'm moving things around, well, I am. It's part of the job. Okay, so let's kind of center this in between those. I might need to make this. There. Let's just make that italic instead of bold. It'll read a little bit different, but it should be fine. There. That way, it actually works a little bit better. We don't have tangents, and it's centered a little better. So let's move this up just a touch. I'm looking at where these things join. All right. Now, let's go ahead and put those together like so. And there we go. Now, we've got a little bit of an edge here, right? So we've got enough room here that we should be able to pop the whole thing over just a touch. See, look how nicely that kind of fits together like that. Let's make sure this is aligned on the baseline. It still works. And now we'll put in our, make sure that we're on the correct layer. And we'll put in our polygon. Oops, okay. If I click twice, that works better. All right. And let's point this at his mouth. A little more toward the center there. And now let's make that into a curve. I've seen some professional comics where they actually use pointed tails. I mean straight pointed tails And that's, that's fine, I guess, but I like a good little curve to them. I'm old school in that way. So there, let's grab both of these things now, shape builder tool, and there we go. Okay, so that's our first couple of panels taken care of. Now, here's the thing though, we've got this thing right here that's in our gutter, which we don't want. All right, so I've selected it, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my eraser tool. Okay, my eraser tool is really small right now. So let's, oops, that wasn't it. Undo stroke. Yeah, my eraser tool is really small right now, but it should do the job. So I'm going to hit my shift key and just make a line. What that did was that separated the balloon into two parts. Okay, so now I can take this part and just get rid of it. Okay, hold down the shift key, it'll constrain your lines. So now it's lined up perfectly with the edge, and you don't want to have your balloons hanging off into the edge. Okay. All right, that was a stroke that I was touching on. All right, now I think that's probably enough for now. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock all, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure by taking my page back up to 100%, and there we go. We've got our first couple of panels ready to ready to go, and that's how you digitally letter a comic page. All right. Okay. Talk to you guys later.